Uh-huh.
That's right.
Like biscuits.
Straight out of the oven.
Gobble damn cookies up, yo.
Word.
Gotta have them bickies.
Cookie Monster rates us. G'day, guys.
G'day, folks. How are we going today?
Hey, nice.
Tonight.
Just a quick word from us before we dive into this episode. A massive thank you so far to all of our listeners who've downloaded our podcast. To say that we are very thrilled and surprised is an understatement. You know, we've got, almost 250 downloads from 4 different countries. Shout out to the dude or gal in Bavaria. Just could be more grateful for everybody's support. Like we talked about at the start, if we could just reach one person, and just make a difference that way. But to have almost 250 downloads, thank you so much.
Definitely. We've had I've heard from people who I haven't heard from in a long time, which has been really cool. And please keep that coming. It's been super exciting to hear from some good friends who you just only see pictures of, really. So to see words from them and hear words
just
from them,
super encouraging.
Yeah, very cool.
I've talked to some friends, and we thank you for the feedback on the music. That is just a bit of a improv little thing that we did, and it'll probably change in the next season. So stay tuned. I hope a lot of people enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we had a bit of fun with it as well, and hopefully, after these 13 episodes, we'll come up with a new one.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you'll enjoy that as well. We did have a little bit of negative feedback, which we specifically asked for, and that was around the audio quality of episode 1 in particular. And that stems back to our technical issues.
Back in the days.
That was that July 2020 recording. And we were trying to do it through a camera.
With like an aux cord. And I went to JCar.
It didn't go so well. So thanks for bearing with us. We hope that this quality will be a little bit better for you. But after all, we are very amateur.
Yes.
Anyway, all good. So this week, Wowie, we'll be getting into Cultivate. That's our biscuit number 2. And look, because we just get together on a Thursday night and we chinwag about stuff, means we're still developing things, and we have, you'll notice if you're on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, our 2 followers on Twitter, that we do have a little made up image which sort of covers the main points from the particular episode. And in that, we've come up with our own definitions of our life bickies. We basically just get a Google definition and then mould it to suit how we want it to be for life bickies. And then we also have a quote. So our definition for this week is, for Cultivate, is to prepare and grow to get better daily. All right, so that is our definition. And then our quote from Bruce Springsteen, who, granted, I don't listen to Bruce. I know he's one of the all-time great musicians.
Yep. Couple of bangers out there, mate.
Yeah. Walking, something about having 2 feet on a pier. I'm not sure. Anyway, a time comes when you need to stop waiting for who you want to be and start being who you need to be. That is essentially what this is about, intentionality and you'll hear that as we get into the episode. It starts with awareness, and I think if we're not, then we can just glide by.
Yeah, man. I mean, sometimes there's things that are right in front of us that, we ignore and look right past without realizing that they're absolute game changers for us. If only we saw them and embraced them. And that's what really Cultivate is about. Right?
Definitely.
Finding them, finding those game changers, embracing them, cultivating them.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing that we've had to listen to this episode, because this one's from a couple of months ago. So we just listened to it a little bit earlier, and a bit of feedback from ourselves to pass on to you. We probably didn't emphasize enough that we really want to grow our character over our skills,
100%.
so to speak, if you will put it that way. At our school, in our volleyball program, we talk to our kids about, we want you to be by the time you leave, at the end of year 12, we want you to be a better person than you are a volleyball player. If you're an amazing volleyball player but a knob, we've failed.
Yeah.
And so that's what Life Bickies is about with cultivating ourselves is, we want to develop some skills and stuff, but we also want the really great character qualities as well.
And if we're working on that foundation and that character, those skills will come. Speaking of skills that are coming slowly, in the episode we do talk about some swimming. And I'm not a great swimmer, but since having done the small bar triathlon that we talk about, I have improved. My time was 2 seconds faster per 100 meters. So, Yeah,
definitely. It paid off, as you said. The summer came for you.
Yeah.
We did do a little bar triathlon, and I wrote in my journal that night, or the next night, I think, I wrote, there are no shortcuts to excellence, because I survived that triathlon.
It was an ordeal. It was
more
hard.
than anything else.
Yeah.
And that was just proof of, I think we refer to me doing 5 swim sessions, and I was banging out the sessions. And we did I probably got to 10 before the actual triathlon, but literally did not ride a bike in 15 years. And ran a 10K in October last year, and then I thought I was good to go. I wasn't, but I survived. There are no sort of alliances or payments from Segway scooters in this episode.
Yeah, despite mentioning it several times.
Yes.
Our apologies.
Yep. And besides that, the last thing we just wanted to note was there is a T in our acronym, and you'll see it coming, and that one's a shout out to Jim Rohn, that particular dot point that we get into, the T of the acronym. So listen out, Jim Rohn, who's a legend of the personal growth realm, has passed on now, but shout out to Jim for that one. I think it's time to throw over to the episode. So thank you for giving us those 6 minutes 50 of your time prior to this 40-minute episode. And we hope you have a great one. And please get in touch with us.
Yeah, we love it.
Comment on the pictures and links and whatnot on Facebook and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. See you in the show.
Catch you. Welcome, everybody.
It's Chris and Glen.
Yeah, we are here with Life Biscuits, LB13.
1-3. Snack size wisdom, life sized impact.
That's what we're aiming for. And we're here with our next Bicky.
Cultivate. Biscuit number 2.
Biscuit
Cultivate.
2.
Yeah.
So we spoke about courage last week, which was a winner. We loved it. And we're moving now on to our second biscuit, another C. We have some C's coming at you. And this one is cultivate. A great word which people who are kind of, into the real growth thing will have heard from various people.
And cultivate's there just because once you've eaten biscuit number 1, you've got that courage to step up and be willing to grow. Then really the next step is to start cultivating and start taking that step to growing yourself and being where you want to go to.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Life Biscuits being about growth, we really believe, as we mentioned in our intro podcast, that the best contribution we can make to the world, be it at the micro level of ourselves and our family and that real inner circle, to things outside of that, like your work and that next group of people, is to grow yourself and be better. And so Cultivate just works on that kind of agricultural type acronym. We know that plants grow.
Yes. So we have a little acronym that is agricultural based. So,
we do, yeah. And we know that plants won't grow unless, there's some sort of someone in general tending to them. And so we've got to be the people tending to ourselves. And so our acronym's going to be focused on what we can do to cultivate growth in our life. Hit us with the acronym.
So, are you ready for this, folks? It's planted.
Planted. So we need to be planted in intentionality to grow. Another word,
strong base,
intentional, is something that people who have listened to stuff on growth before will be like, boom, heard that word before, and it's really one of those foundational words to growing, is that we've got to be intentional about it. We can't just hope that, you know, we get wiser and better as we grow older. It's not necessarily the case.
No, it's not. So to kick us off,
the P.
Yeah, the P.
That's planted, starts with a P, and the P stands for, and again, as we've mentioned, we're going with the acronyms to keep things quite, or hopefully easier to remember. So planted relates to cultivate. The P is prepare the grounds.
It's got to happen before anything else, right?
So a farmer would do that, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
Or she.
Yeah, that's right. And preparing the grounds is really about removing distractions or barriers that might prevent you from that growth that we want to cultivate. It's about creating a solid environment where we can foster and promote growth. And if we don't remove the weeds in our field, then those weeds will compete. All right, they'll compete for resources. They'll, you know, sap away the growth of what we're trying to do, and we won't have that potential. And we've talked about how Life Biscuits is always it's all about trying to reach our potential.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, if we think prepare the grounds, it's really our mind that we're preparing. We've got to get into the right mindset to change from a very reactive, just ready to kind of just face the music of the day and of our lives, to switch that to go, wait, every moment in our lives is an opportunity for something. And I have this power of choice to choose what that opportunity is going to lean towards. And so with that mindset shift, someone like I probably only had that real shift toward, wait a second, I've got a chance to really grow intentionally in my late 20s, which by the time I figured it out, like, it was not too late. It's never too late.
Yeah, it's never.
But I felt like, man, I've missed so much. You know, I spent a good portion of my marriage and of my young adult life just still being an adolescent.
I think back to my uni days, and
I know, right?
I was just like, man, I could have been doing so much more.
Yeah, exactly.
Just being who I'm supposed to be, you know, like,
for sure. Instead of just
C's get degrees.
Not figuring out. You just don't understand, I don't think. So if you're listening and you're still an adolescent by age, like, we'd really encourage you to think about this a little bit and go, wait a second, maybe I don't have to wait until my mid-late 20s, or perhaps
even later,
50s or 60s, or perhaps never figure it out on your deathbed and go, damn, wait a second, I could have made a bigger difference, and could have been a better person, and I could have done all of these things if I just had been intentional about being ready to grow myself.
And to just continue on with that, like, first of all, it's all about the mind and how we approach things. But then there's other things that we can do to really prepare what we want to cultivate. If we want to cultivate our organization, or being really prepared for stuff, getting rid of those distractions can be, hey, maybe I want to get better at my writing and I cultivate my writing skills. I'm going to go prepare my office so it's not a clutter, and then that environment, that grounds, the fields will promote learning to be a better writer, a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure. At Life Biscuits, we're all about putting others first, right? But if there's one reason, I think, to be selfish and to be self-centered and self-focused, then this is it. To grow yourself, because we're growing ourselves too, then take that to other people, right? And the better we can be for others in ourselves, then I think the bigger impact we're going to have, either at that micro level with my partner or spouse or whatever it might be, or my family, or at the macro level, getting right out there. If you've got big dreams, big hopes, at the global level, then the better we can get ourselves, then the bigger impact we can have. I think it will get found out. I think you might like it to make an impact somewhere, but if you're going to sustain growth and sustained kind of success, for want of a better word, whatever success is to you, then I don't think you can go through an entire life being successful, and I said that like that because I'm doing the rabbity inverted comma things, if you are self-centered in every aspect of your life. So we think this is a crucial aspect to be self-centered on, so that we can then take it to others and put others first in our relationships and workplaces and all that sort of stuff.
Prepare the ground. So the second letter for planted is L, and L stands for lean in.
Yeah.
And I want you to embrace that learning experience. Nerd out, all right?
Yeah,
Nerd
sure.
out, man. We've eaten biscuit one. We've got the courage. Now's the time to really embrace all the nuances of what you're trying to cultivate yourself in, because there's opportunities to have. Many listeners may know that I'm a massive Green Bay Packers fan, and I was never into NFL, to be honest, and got invited by a fellow colleague for fantasy football, and at that time I was like, fantasy, is that dragons? But then, got into fantasy football, started watching it.
Is that dragons?
Dragons and football. Just started to really try win my fantasy bracket and my fantasy league, and started looking at yards and turnovers and sleeper players and whatnot. And because I leaned into it so much, I just fell in love with it. Decided to play, and then joined a club, and then met some really one of my first coaches, Steve Box, pretty much had a big impact on how I approach my coaching. He's worked with the Queensland Sun Devils, and he knows Pete Carroll from the Seattle Seahawks, and so just having that opportunity, just because I was like, oh yeah, I'll get interested in some fantasy football, has just led to so much more. So embrace that learning experience. Nerd out.
Just to catch on the Pete Carroll thing.
Yeah.
What a great guy.
Oh, look, as a Packers fan, I'm supposed to not like the Sea Chickens, but great coach. He's had some great accomplishments.
I love that Seahawks culture though. Having just read a bit of stuff about what he's sort of cultivated within that group. It's very much what I'm about as a coach. I obviously coach sport and volleyball in particular at the school level, and that philosophy of people first and really trying to we over me and whatnot is super awesome. Lean in is just a great kind of philosophy, I think, pending that we're leaning into good things
stuff.
But just the concept of really kind of just pressing in towards the stuff that you're interested in, and to even if I'm talking about I want to be more interested in other people, then not only kind of metaphorically, so to speak, leaning into that relationship, but also if you picture when I'm conversing with someone, if I lean in, that's just showing interest and showing that you care. And then if we take that to the metaphorical kind of level, if that's the right term, English teachers, I'm not sure, then I want to kind of lean forward and be interested in all of these areas that I kind of decide upon. So we're saying decide upon getting better, in everything that you do. And we're not saying it's easy. We're very much advocates for screwing up, but then bouncing back and going again and not getting discouraged, but being encouraged to keep moving forward. So I think, mixing that courage, sometimes it's going to feel uncomfortable to lean in. If I'm not a people person, but I know that investing in others is great, but I'm an introvert and I'm shy, then having the courage to lean in to other people and just go out of your way to encourage them and excite them about life and all that sort of thing, I think is, a valiant goal without being too, what do they call it? Toxically positive. Which, we'll probably talk about at a later date, because we do love the positivity at Life Biscuits. But seeing those opportunities and just harnessing them.
Yeah, man.
and really going for them is leaning in.
Yeah. I want to just say, if you've ever talked to someone, or like, you know, if you're at a party and trying to get to have a chat with people, you're trying to find out what they like, and they're just like, you know, they don't really care about anything, they're indifferent, oh yeah, you know, and then they don't have that leaning in passion with anything. It's so hard to,
for sure.
and you know, don't be one of those people. I mean, you can always, I think it's so important to care about stuff, and have a love or passion for something, other than just being indifferent and apathetic. You know what I mean? Like,
and
life is so broad.
Yeah.
Like,
in saying that,
something.
a lot of people, I think,
they don't know it yet.
Yeah,
But
they
go
haven't
find
figured
it. Yeah. Lean into different things and find it.
But even like, you know, we talk about going to a party and speaking to people, and it's hard to speak to people. But I think that you need to be intentional about that as well. Like, there's very few people I find who can go and just, they're so easy to talk to, and they can just run a conversation, and there's lots of back and forth and blah blah blah, and they know great questions to ask, which we'll talk about later. That's not, for most people, that's not just going to happen. All right, you've got to be intentional about, well, you know, I'm about to go, or I want to be better at talking to people at parties, so learn how to do it. Like, lean in to figuring out how that happens well. And you're going to have to work at your craft. You're going to have to prepare your grounds to make that happen, and lean into that process. It's not going to happen by magic, or you know, just, that's what the whole Life Biscuits concept, right, is that the stuff that we want to foster in our lives isn't just going to happen by accident. Like, we actually need to cultivate it in our lives. So that's a poignant example from something that I think is really common, that people just want to be, particularly in that young adult group. I think by the time you get to my age and older, people are like, I don't care, I don't want to talk to anyone. But yeah, anyway, that's a great one. We need to learn how to do that.
And good segue to the next letter of our acronym planted. A is ask questions. It's about being critical and being curious and finding information. If you don't ask, you don't get information. And if you don't get information, you don't grow. All right? No new information equals no growth.
There's so much here in asking questions. And like, we're not going to go down the deep but very sunny rabbit hole of how do I ask better questions? Because that's a really cool, there's some, as Sarah Wilson would put it, beautiful questions to ask. And some really cool ones rather than the shallow, superficial ones. But, you know, we can grow other people by asking them questions, like in their spirit, by taking interest in them and saying, oh, I love how you did that. How did you do that? And they're like, oh, cool. You know, and I think we can, again, encourage people and inspire them to better things just from asking nice, positive, and, you know, beautiful type questions. Yeah.
Curiosity didn't kill a cat.
No, exactly. I think also, you know, to use a rabbi example, from what I understand, I'm not Jewish, but...
Neither am I, so I'm very intrigued.
But I believe that rabbis are... like, their art is in asking questions. I think I may have got this from The Simpsons.
Okay.
But, you know, so they'll, instead of stating something, they might say, but is it not said that, blah, blah, blah. And then that gets people thinking, well, wait.
It's
and
the
then
cogs
they
turning.
might say, but it is also said that, yada, yada, yada. And it just opens this conversation up to conversation rather than it just being a I say this type of thing. And so I think I'm just a big fan of people, and you know, the fact that even though I'm an introvert and I'm relatively shy, which might shock some of the students I teach, but asking questions is just a great thing. And I think, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, great book. He talks a bit about that as well, you know, getting other people to really speak and not speaking from a point of I know everything, so I'm going to tell you, but rather just being curious and asking people, even if you think you know, or you believe that you know something, just posing questions instead of saying, I do this, you should do this. It's, how do you think this might work? To get other people to start that ball rolling. Otherwise, you're just getting people offside, and you become that person thinks they know everything, so I'm not going to even bother, or here they go again, sort of stuff.
Yeah. So that's some really good stuff about talking to other people, but it's also apologies there. It's also important to, like I first said, be critical. It's also to ask those questions of yourself as well. Like, we're not going to grow if we don't reflect and ask ourselves whether or not what we're doing is efficient, or the way we approach this, was this the best course of action at that time. And so we've got to be critical, right, of ourselves to figure out what the areas that we can grow. So not just being curious and talking to other people, it's great, focusing on other people, but growing ourselves, that reflection and critical ask questions is also key to cultivation.
And I think a final point on asking questions is, a side note, we're kind of speaking like we know all of this, which we don't. These are our ideas, and we'd love you to question us on them, because we all love to have your point of view. But the second thing is, I don't think we need an answer to everything. I think it's okay to just ask a question sometimes and not have an answer, and just let that question sit. And sometimes I think we have to be comfortable with, the really big type questions that perhaps we're not going to get the answer that we're satisfied with. And I think that sometimes that's okay. Anyway, that's just a thought. Random thought.
I like it.
Yeah.
So,
which actually segues pretty well to our next letter, which is N. And that is navigate the seasons.
We know that there's going to be multiple seasons when you're growing a crop, right? There's going to be rainy days, there's going to be cold, frosts, winter, the dark, less sunlight, less photosynthesis. So we've got to understand that, we might be trying to cultivate this area of our life, but it's not going to happen immediately. All right? We're going to have to weather some of these storms. These are inclement weather. And really understand that if I'm doing all the things that we say in Cultivate, that the end product will happen.
Right? For sure.
We can't just give up on our crop just because, it didn't rain for a bit. We've got to just understand, trust the process. 76ers.
Joel Embiid. It's finally coming good.
MVP season right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sunny days and dark days, but it's coming.
I mean, a classic example is, if we were trying to cultivate some physical health. All right, I think we've all been there, either through, a weight gain campaign, which I've been on a few times, or a weight loss campaign, which I'm now getting into those, middle-aged years where it might turn into a weight loss campaign rather than a weight gain campaign. But we've got to know that physical health, which we'll talk about in condition, is a long-term game. We're playing for longevity here. We're not playing for instant gratification and instant results. So, a lot of that initial working out and figuring out your nutrition and all of that, that's kind of the winter. Particularly the early days, like, this is tough. In fact, it feels like when that's just your ultimate goal, when you're just looking at the scales and that's your goal, it almost feels like it's always winter. But if we're doing it for the right reasons, I think, to pose a question, is it not good to just persist and do it not just for the scale? For the longevity and good health and longer years that you might be around for. And I'm sure and I'm positive that the summer will come. The sun will come out. It will shine upon you. Do you know what I mean?
That beach bod will reveal itself, and not that we're after vanity and perfect masculine Adonis bodies, but it'll come
for sure. We can't. So moral of the story is we can't plant, immediately before the spring. Or we can't. You know, we can't just plant one day and expect the crop to be
There's
harvested.
it takes work.
Yeah.
Farmers work hard.
For sure.
Cultivating something, it takes time and effort.
And I mean, if you look across any aspect of life, there's these seasons. You talk about our mental health, like we go through real dark times sometimes through the winters. But we know that brighter days are ahead, and we can have that hope that there are brighter days ahead. Seasons, baby. Life isn't all sunny days. It's going to be terrible sometimes, but we've got to look forward, look ahead, know that the summer's coming. Or spring, because I love spring. Sorry, spring's good.
And talking about dark days, segues into our next letter, which is T, and it's turn frustration into fascination. All right, when we hit those winter days, it's really important that we don't just become negative and toxic and just go, it's not happening, nothing's working for me at the moment. We've really got to turn that frustration into another learning opportunity, a growth opportunity where we can continue to cultivate that area. I've spoken to many people, but at the moment we've got a triathlon planned soon. And you're smashing out the swim session, and not to reinforce a stereotype, but I am Asian, and I am not the best swimmer. I mean, I can swim long distance, but it's just really inefficient, and it's just like I'm clawing through the water. I'm not a smooth swimmer, and my time for the swim leg is slower than I want it to be. And I've been just training, well, not as much as I should be, and obviously clearly not in the correct technique, because I'd be faster if I was doing the right thing. But trying to get sub 45 for 1.9 kilometers, I was really frustrated. There was a stage where I'd be swimming every single week, and I'd be like trying to swim as fast as I could. Couldn't get under 45, 45 to 50 minutes, and it was frustrating at the time. But then I went down, I was just fascinated as to why, because I was like, I'm putting so much effort in. I'm clawing that water, baby. And then I went down and this YouTube rabbit hole of swim technique and swim drills, and I can't say that it's improved my time just yet, but those are the winters, and the spring is coming. I will get faster, and it's about just turning that frustration. I could have just been mad and quit, or not really continue to swim, but not really sought improvement or cultivation. But by turning that frustration into fascination, it was another growth opportunity. So
swimming's a fascinating thing, really.
It is, isn't it?
I watched the 100-meter freestyle today at a swimming, and just those gun swimmers, particularly the girls. We don't have too many great boy swimmers at the moment, but the girls were kind of swimming, I think, a minute for the 100.
Oh damn!
And I'm like, because I was thinking, I've only done like 5 sessions. So I wouldn't say I'm smashing at this.
Well, you're much faster than me.
Although I jammed in one at the break yesterday.
Nice.
And I thought I was hammering, and I'm like, this is going to be well under my last time. And it was exactly the same. So it was a bit disappointing. But it's just amazing watching them. I'm like, when I swim, I'm looking at this young lady who won, and I'm just like, I put my hand in like that, and my hand goes back through the water like that, and I'm taller than her, and I've got a longer reach than her, and I'm sure I could beat her in an arm wrestle and do more push-ups than her, maybe, and yet she's kind of 20 seconds faster than what I am, and I'm like, what is going on here? It's really fascinating, just that they're so quick through the water.
There's like this, I mean, when I think of swimming, I think there's a poem, it's called The Thin Black Line or something like that, just about I can't remember who wrote it, but just the meditative kind of like, you're swimming, you're focused on one thing, and your eyes are down that black line, and it's just like you get into this zone. And I think it's such I'd like to be able to get better at swimming and just get into that zone, and just not be like, breathe.
Yeah, exactly. Every breath's painful. Don't swallow any water. Anyway, turning frustration into fascination, and I think, as can be seen through the planted acronym, a lot of it like just that concept of curiosity and asking questions, even though the A is explicitly ask questions, it's threaded through all of them almost. And wondering why, like even as simple as, I'm getting my bag on and my watch is catching and I get frustrated, man, or I can't get something out of my pocket. Like I've got the shopping and my keys are in the wrong pocket and I'm reaching in and I'm like getting frustrated that I can't get my keys out, man. I'm pulling on these things. And then I'm like, mate, there's just a better way to do this.
Yeah.
Like, just,
what's the better way?
Yeah, like I think, well, one, just putting my keys in the correct pocket for a start.
Yeah. Systems.
Systems, exactly. And then just remaining calm and maybe stopping, putting the bag down, reaching and getting my keys out of my pocket, and I haven't had this little spike of heart rate and frustration in my life. And that's just a really simple example. I think we get frustrated a lot in life. I wouldn't be the only one, and just remaining a bit poised there, and asking, hey, how can I avoid this just little frustration in the future?
So our next letter in our planted acronym is E, and E stands for environment. And we talked a little at the start about preparing the grounds, but this E for environment is really about the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And people are so important. They can help you shoot your career into the stratosphere if you're hanging around the right people, and they're the kinds of people that promote and support and just encourage you. Your growth in that area that they're about, is just going to go bonkers.
Yeah. So like the hot cold principle.
Yeah.
So if I'm a hot poker, hot poker principle, that I'm used to brand cattle and all that sort of thing, like they put that, if they just grabbed that off the ground and tried to poke a cow with it, like it's not going to brand the cow.
Yeah.
It's just going to nudge it. All right. And it'll be like, what's going on? Whereas if I stick that amongst the hot coals over time, like it's going to become scorching hot, and therefore I can make an impact.
Yeah.
Right. So if we want to make an impact for something, then we've got to surround ourselves with people who are burning for that thing. So I mean, a great example that I've seen a couple of people who I'm friends with on Facebook is they're kind of getting physically fit, and the way they're doing that is they're surrounding themselves with like-minded people. So they're joining running groups and they're joining triathlon groups, and they're going and they're doing it, and they're engaging in a community, and they're in the environment to get better. And what do you know? They get better. And that leads to that's a snowball effect when you're on fire for something, because I think it just becomes a catalyst.
You see that in professional sports too. Hey, like off season, people are clamoring to go work out with these superstars. Like different stars from other teams work together, work out.
For sure.
I mean, it just fires up that competitiveness within you, and it's just really those people really help you compete and help you push yourself to become better. I, in a past life, was a gymnastics coach, and I had some good friends. Started getting gymnastics. Really hung out with my friends Jed, Luke, and Alex. Shout out to my boys. And at the time, I wanted to, I didn't want to just coach. I wouldn't be able to do it as well. Be able to demonstrate. If I'm coaching somebody, show how it's done. And just hanging out with them, and they really helped me. Like pass my level 7. That was the whole goal. Pass level 7. Level 7 is like, you're starting to get all right. And those boys were just like, we talked about leaning in. Those boys leant in. Like Jed, floor specialist. He made an app, and this was in 2010 when apps went as easy to make. He computer programmer programmed this app to learn all the different difficulty ratings for each of the floor skills. And he installed a copy on my phone, and it was like, Lowy, all right, study up. I want to see 95% on your judging skills, so you know what skills were worth what, and what were the deductions for each of those skills. Wow. Alex, just a freak human machine. He's like the Hulk, and just helped me almost get my cross. I never got my full cross, but I was about 15 degrees off.
Yeah.
Hold for 2 seconds. And then, Luke, just the boy on the tramp, just helping me slide that mat in. And just having those guys were just so beneficial that, in under a year and a half, managed to pass my level 7. So thanks, fellas. Thanks for being my hot poker.
Yeah, for sure. I think, if you look at elite athletes, they're great examples of they're cultivating, obviously, for the most part, their particular
skills and
skill set and whatnot. But the best of the best of the best, they surround themselves with the right people and they remain curious. Like they can talk about their sport and the ins and outs of it all, relentlessly because they're looking just for that little edge and that little edge to get better and better and better. So I think that's also why, to flip subjects a little bit, but why COVID has taken such a big toll on the global community, because that environment has really been taken away from people. That ability to go and surround yourself with like-minded people and whatnot has been just stripped. And so we've seen a pretty big, we've been so lucky in Australia, and pending things keep going the way they are, hopefully they will. But the rest of the world, I think, has, had it really tough in that regard. And not to say Australians haven't. I know there's been some pretty significant lockdowns in different states and whatnot. But shout out to all the people who are still pressing on through COVID times.
Shout out. So environment, so important. Our last letter, D, for daily practices.
Yeah.
So you can't grow a good crop if you just plant the seeds and then walk away for 6 months or whatever. You've got a good crop requires daily practice. It requires watering, maintenance,
for sure.
pulling
Just
out those little weeds, checking on them,
having a look for
tests,
health, checking for any. Is there any sort of diseases on the leaves?
What is the potassium level in my soil and
yes.
acidity, pH? Yeah, exactly. So if we want to cultivate ourselves, we have to do those little things. We have to do them daily. Yeah. We'll talk about habits and consistency in biscuit number 9.
Yeah.
But to be able to cultivate, those little things need to happen.
John Maxwell has an amazing quote, in so few words, but it's like ridiculously hard hitting if you just think about it and go, wait. Success is found in your daily routine. So you're not going to change anything in your life unless you change something you do daily. So we can go, I want to
be super successful and
I want to be amazing in this, that and the other. I want to make this much money, or I want to have amazing marriage, or I want to go and finish this course or study that course or whatever. But unless we're legitimately changing something and prioritizing that into our daily routine and making it a daily habit, like we can't expect significant change. Like
if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
Exactly, man. Like, holy cow! And it's so simple. Like, how simple is that? In terms of like, wait, have you done a daily audit, Glenbo? Have I actually looked at what I'm doing every single day? Yeah. And I have, but only in the last few years since I've started really habit tracking and being intentional about that. Because it's easy to let days, weeks, months slip by without doing this thing that you want to do.
Yeah.
So,
and once you get that, it's revolutionary when you understand that you've got to start doing something every day.
Yeah. And if we're talking about cultivating our growth as a person, what are we doing every day that's going to grow us intellectually, that's going to grow us physically in the right ways, that's going to grow our relationships? Like, we've got to somehow prioritize these things, and we can't do it by accident. We have to be intentional about it.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. You have to do something. Like, you can't expect results and put zero effort. Everything requires some sort of sacrifice. It's like a payment. Right? And if you want something, you got to go sacrifice something for it. You got to make that payment. If you want that healthier life, like you want a healthier body, you got to put in the work. Right? You want to become smarter and intellectually, proficient. Right? You got to start doing those mental exercises, whatever it is regarding your field that you're after. Right?
For sure.
Can't have good friendships if you don't work on those relationships. Right?
Exactly.
So,
amen, bro.
yeah.
Cool.
So the dunk.
Let's dunk this bad
The
boy.
section where we provide you some sort of direction, hopefully,
Give you a
little challenge
Yeah.
to really work on the biscuit that we're on. And for Cultivate, I don't know, we both agree on this. It's read, right? Get that information. Like hopefully by finding something that you're leaning into, you have that information to start sowing some seeds.
Yeah.
Right?
So readers are leaders. Man, I think 80% of the population never pick up another book once they finish their study, their official formal study, whether that's high school or TAFE or university.
And I know some kids that don't pick up a book even when they're in school, and they just find those Spark Notes or whatever.
Exactly. I did a
watch the movie instead.
Get to know you thing with my class, and one of the things was favourite book, and I think, this is year 10 kids, and most of them said, I don't read. And I'm just like, and I mean, I was the same, I'm not going to lie, in year 10 I was the same. But I'm just hoping for anyone listening to this, like if I listened to this when I was in year 10, hopefully, I remember my cousin, who's a few years older than me, when I was at uni, saying, he was obviously onto this. And he was just like, readers are leaders, man, you got to read.
Nice.
And I didn't for another 5 or 6 years until late 20s, when I'm like, okay, I figured it out finally. And if you're listening to this, like, lean in to something. Like, we're big into personal growth. You might be big into horticulture. Yeah. Lean into it. You might be big into music. Lean into it. You might be big into, psychology. Lean into it. I don't know. Find something that's going to really grow you. Finances. Lean into it.
Yeah, I mean, and even because I read a lot of fiction as a kid. I mean, even reading fiction is better than no reading.
Yeah.
Like, read something.
For sure.
Right? And they say, like, people who read, because you're internalizing that dialogue and communication, it helps with your, like, if you're reading like something that's somebody else, a character is saying, then you can empathize because you're reading that person's point of view, and being able to read in that person's point of view and empathize then helps you be able to understand and relate to other people, which helps with your relationships and other life biscuits like Connect, which we'll touch on later. Yeah,
exactly.
But reading, just read.
And the second thing is write. Man, again, this is going to be a common thing that we're going to talk about a lot in life biscuits, but journaling, reflecting daily, getting into the written word, even if it's just jotting some stuff, but it's so important. And I was just looking over here, you might have seen me get a bit distracted because I'm looking for my last year's journal. When I journal, I go with a couple of gratitude points and then something I've learned. And there was just an awesome quote about the importance of writing. And I was going to go and find it and read it because I was like, at the time, and I wrote it down as my learning for the day, and I thought I would never forget it. But it's just so important to be able to be clear with our writing. Like, I don't think I'm a big advocate for just writing for writing's sake and just letting your hand and mind take you. But then to go the next level with your writing is to be able to communicate clearly, like to make sense of something in your mind, to put that on paper and in a way that's going to make sense to someone else. I think is a really cool thing to be able to do, and one of the goals that I have, particularly with the book that we're writing in Life Biscuits, is to be able to communicate that succinctly and powerfully to the people who are reading it. And so that's why I think just getting in and writing about, and we'll talk about gratitude in condition, but read and write. Yeah,
the simplest of dunks for us today.
And it doesn't have to be long.
Paragraph if you're really struggling.
Yeah, a couple of dot points.
Yeah, exactly.
And it might just, and the way we journal, the way I like to read the Life Biscuits kind of way of reading something, and I'm not talking fiction, go for your life, stop when you want. Yeah. But if I'm reading something for my own growth, I'll read just until I find something that I'm like, I like that. And then I'll write that thing down. It could be a sentence it's the first sentence I read at the start of a chapter, and it's just like bang. And I'm just like, oh man, think about that. I like that. What could I do with that? How could I apply that? And so I'll write that down.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be 3 or 4 or 5 pages before I find something that I'm like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
But it's rarely longer than that, which is like a 5-minute read.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, it's not a big chunky day. You could do this read
less
thing
than
in
1%.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
15 minutes we talk about as a 1% of your day,
yeah.
and I think that's fair, right?
Yeah.
Give up 1% of your day for something that's going to grow you.
Exactly. Got to pay the price if you want to grow. Got to do little daily practices. So Cultivate, biscuit number 2. To just recap, our acronym is PLANTED. P for preparing the grounds. All right, got to get rid of those weeds. Mindset. Lean in, really nerd out, embrace it.
Yeah.
All right. Ask questions. A is ask questions. Be curious. N, navigate the seasons. Winters are coming, baby.
Yeah,
but
so
is spring.
Days. Yeah, spring's good.
Turn frustration into fascination. All right. When those
Just
winters
get better.
happen, just ask.
Why are you
Why is it
tripping
happening? Environment, surround yourself with people that are going to support you, encourage you, get you to where you want to get to.
Yeah, and on that, we didn't mention this, but if there's people that are bringing you down and
get rid of
causing issues, then it might be a way. You might need to find a way to try and spend less time with those people.
And then lastly, D, daily practices. Can't grow your crop, without doing the daily practices like watering and maintenance, or reading, which is our dunk, and writing, which is also the second part of our dunk.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, guys. Well, I had a good time, Lowy. I just love spitballing about this stuff. And that's what this is. It's a bit of a spitball, but we hope you enjoyed it. We've got an email address, which is lifebickies, which has got 2 Ks in it, at gmail.com. Feel free to drop us a line. We'd be interested to hear from you. And you can also check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to like us, follow us, and whatnot, you can also hit up lifebiscuits.com and sign up for our email newsletter.
All right. So next podcast episode will be on condition. So looking forward to that. Yeah. We'll see you then.
See you later, people.
Bye.
Time to go.
So delicious.
I'm feeling full.
Yum yum in my tum tum.
Gotta digest them bickies.